And he was like, you know what? I'll give you one chance. Like, you get arrested again, I'll make sure you go away for 10 years. And they made me go to a detox, an inpatient 30-day rehab, everything in the world.
I'm a former Detroit police officer and rode with the One Percenter Motorcycle Club. During that time, I was involved in a lot of altercations. I had a gun shoved in my face. The trigger was pulled, and I got a plate under my left eye. I'm Manny Vitale, and this is my story. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Manny Vitale, host of My Fight Our War, and we have a very special guest today. We have John Mandunka, who is going to be sharing some pretty amazing stories. You know, we were just talking a little bit about our own stories and then other people's stories, doing the shows, meeting the people that we meet. And it is, you know, when you look at our past, that, you know, we were just talking about, did you ever think that we'd be doing something like this now? And it is such a blessing. So, you know, and who better to tell people who are struggling than the people who have, you know, have gone through it. So, John, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
So, you know what, let's just get this thing cranking. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
All right, well, yep, my name is John Mandunka. I'm from Connecticut. I grew up here in Danbury. Basically, simple life growing up. Got into drugs and alcohol at probably 17. Before that, you know, I had my two parents in my life, my brother. Grew up in the church, going to school, had a lot of family. My main focus was to become a pro athlete in baseball. Dedicate a lot of my time to it, travel team, stuff like that. And around 18, everything changed. I was kind of like the Derek Jeter. Like, hated drugs, hated alcohol, that clean-cut kid. And at 17, you know, went through some traumas when I was young. My friend's dad died in front of me, had a heart attack. At 13, I was there and saw that. A couple other things, and then, you know, didn't know how to process it and got into first, like, drinking and weed. Mm-hmm. Didn't go too good to start, and then really quickly. It was 2008 I graduated, so that's when the real Oxycontin epidemic started. And kicked it right off, tried it once, got into trafficking, selling it, and 10 years straight of just opiates, other drugs, arrests, everything.
So you went from that quick, huh? From taking it to just boom, right into selling trafficking.
Yeah, so the baseball was kind of my money way out. You know, I want to take care of my family, help people in need, and I love playing baseball. But once grades failed, I got hurt in football my senior year. I kind of saw that wasn't panning out. My friend group shifted, and I started hanging out with kids that were older than me. They were moving stuff from New York City here to Connecticut to where the money was to sell them. And, yeah, really, I mean, within 365 days, I went from, like, I'm going to be a Yankee to, like, late nights at 18, sneaking my car into Queens and bringing pills, Oxycontin back to Connecticut.
Man, within a year.
Yeah.
Man, that's insane.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, it's funny, too, because we were talking about a little bit before we started about what when people see people, what they perceive, you know, don't judge a book by the cover and all that. You know, when I hear some of these stories about, you see someone, you know, clean cut, you know, the whole, you know, family environment, and then you find out the stories, and it's just like, holy crap. And so it just goes to show you, man, when it comes to addiction, when it comes to all these terrible things, it doesn't care what sex you are, it doesn't care what religion you are, your social bracket, your income bracket. Man, when it gets you, it gets you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was a big thing for me is, like, my family, obviously my parents saw quickly, you know what I mean? You start, like, money's missing or you're out late at night, that was obvious. But there was a time in my mid-20s that I was, like, double life. I was a senior manager of a call center around here for Comcast. It was a third party, but I oversaw, like, 1,500 people wearing a suit every day. But before I went in, I would be, like, smoking a little crack and doing heroin and, like, getting it from, like, the ghettos of the cities around here at 7 a.m. And then, like, within 2 hours, I was, like, sitting down with, like, a 40-year-old, and I was 24. And I'm like, you got to write up. You were late today, and, like, total double life. But I was clean cut, so no one had any idea.
And you were able to function.
Yeah.
Well, you'd probably end up catching up to you, but that's insane, man, that you were able to actually, because it sounds like you had a lot of responsibilities in this position.
Yeah.
So here you are, suit and tie, you know, managing all these people in corporate America.
Yeah.
Before that, you know, you're flashing the lights, the code, tap on the horn and stuff, and they're coming out with the stuff.
Yeah, I'd even, like, a couple times, I would just, like, you know, go for lunch, which was 30 minutes, and I'd be gone for, like, 2 hours, and my boss would be, what happened? I'd come up with some crazy story, but I was really, like, moving heroin or making moves and things I'm not proud of today. But looking back, it's like I don't know how I got away. And when I had to tell them I had to go on FMLA for rehab because after a couple of years they caught up with me. When they were like, "What is it, drinking?" and I was like, "No, like heroin, crack." Like they were very cool. I worked day to day with these people, so like family, and they lost their mind. They're like, "What?" Like they thought I was literally being funny, and I was like, "No."
Yeah, because when you think, well, any type of addiction, man, where you can see these physical, emotional changes in people, that you were able to function that long and to the point of doing your job without them noticing is insane.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to the struggle of addiction. Of it worked for me. It ruined a lot in my life, but I have ADHD from younger things. I had PTSD, so when I did it, it would quiet the noise. I didn't take Adderall, and I'm supposed to, but I hated the way it made me feel. So I went within a year. Actually, I got hired as a temp call agent, so just part time. With a year, I was a senior manager. So I went up like 9 notches, doing heroin perks the whole time because I was working harder than anyone. It made me focus. It gave me energy. I didn't do it to like nod out. You know, I would do just enough where I was like kind of tweaked, but I was very focused. And people would be like, "How is this dude doing so much?" And I was just sitting there doing spreadsheets and managing people and motivating people, but I was
And
high out
doing
of
it
my
correctly
mind. Yeah.
and not making, I mean, because that's a lot of responsibility that you were part of.
Yeah, I mean, sitting down with literally like Comcast executives about business deals, and I'm sitting there like kicking back, like tasting heroin, and it's like, but it made me focus, it made me relax. But then over years, that's why I do what I do today to kill the stigma that it did end up ruining everything in my life, basically.
So I'm sorry, you were how when you started taking it? Was it 17? You said
17, 18, I started Oxycontin, weekly, then it went to daily very quickly.
so. You really it went from taking that first pill to all of a sudden, boom. I mean, it went from taking it. Were you taking it originally because of an injury or like a
No, like I
situation?
had an injury, but they gave me probably just like high ibuprofen.
Oh, okay.
But one of my friends broke his hip in baseball at the same time, and he was given like perks or Oxycontin. So we started like playing around.
Give it a couple of here and there and all that stuff.
And,
Man, that's insane. So when you started that, from 17, for how many years?
I got sober from opiates when I was 28, so 11
Really?
years. Yeah, just struggles, rehabs, arrests, just couldn't get it,
Man, so as far as all this goes, talking about family and like for me, you think you're getting away with this stuff, and you were. I mean, you actually were, which is amazing. Mine was mainly alcohol, and then, like I said, enter the coke and the crack was sprinkled in, but I mean, it's damn near impossible to hide being completely drunk off your mind when you're slurring and just hey, do you think they knew? I mean, come on. But it's for me. It's like you get that false sense of security that I did. It's like they never knew. They knew. My mom and family, they knew. Family and friends, they knew. With your situation, so how was it? Who was the first one that said, "Hey, John, is there something you want to talk about?"
Yeah, definitely my parents.
Your parents.
I mean, it's literally the snowball is it, the snowball effect. Like, obviously they saw quick. I started to lie, who I hang out with, stay out late. Maybe my Xbox is missing. Obviously I pawned it. Like little things. Having a lot of cash on me at times before I became like self-ruined. I was just getting into the selling a lot. Like there's a lot of questions early on, and my dad was like, he grew up around a lot, so he wasn't dumb. I was delivering pizzas,
smart.
and I'd come home with like at 17, like wads of money, and he was like, "How much you make tonight? If you have all that money, like that, there's no way you made that much." And I was like, "Oh yeah, business is booming in the pizza world." Like, it was just obvious quick. But it's my parents really quickly at 24 was the first time my dad like put me in a garage, and he was like, "Enough. Like you either pack your bags, live at your car today, or." They're very supportive. Like, tell us your problem, and we'll find you help.
So at 24, was that when he goes, listen? But up until that point, you
Sprinkle
never
quota.
told them that it was opioids. They never knew anything until 28.
24, yeah.
24.
That was the first time I went for help. They asked questions. I'd be like, no, I'm good. Like, just spent a lot of money this week. I just want money. I just answer I always had
You
lies.
answered the questions.
And I think, I was really good at, if they did press, I would like flip out with anger and like be defensive,
Flip the script.
Yeah.
So in that garage that day, did you tell him?
I did. I just said, I think it was that time it was just Percocets. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what happened. I messed around, and for 3 years I've been addicted to, like, physically to Percocets. And he was like, oh, shit. So They went and they found a Suboxone doctor through a family friend, and definitely didn't work for me. It probably got me off it for like a month or two. But this guy just gave me this doctor gave me a Ziploc bag of like 30 films you put into your tongue, so you don't withdraw, and then so you can't use. And I just used it daily, but I didn't grow spiritually, mentally, physically at all. So in like 60 days, I started just selling it and buying heroin, and just kept going for another 4 years.
So, because that's one thing I never took the Suboxone. I never as far as knowing the background of what it is. So basically, he was giving you that to avoid the withdrawal. From
Yeah, so it has
the opioids?
multiple things. You take it, you have to wait 24 hours for the withdrawals of opiates for it to get out of your system, because you can't take it too early. Then you take it and you basically feel amazing. You feel totally normal, like you never had addiction, like not dope sick, nothing. And then you have to maintenance. You have to keep taking it, or you'll get dope sick from that drug, which is because it's an opiate blocker. So it's the same withdrawals. It's terrible. And you take it day to day, but what it does is it blocks your opiate receptors. So even if you were to like snort a perk, you wouldn't get high. Okay. So it makes it useless. So that you have no, and it helps with craving. So there's no reason to use, because like, why would I go buy a pill if
it's you're not going to notice
can't affect
any
me.
Physical, or you're not going to notice
Nothing.
anything.
So and you don't get dope sick, and so it's like that's why they say easy fixes never work. You're basically healed in like 24 hours, but you got to keep taking this thing, or you're going to get really sick.
So you're getting rid of this pill for this pill.
Exactly. So it didn't work for me. There's some people, maybe it saves their lives. For me, it's so much deeper than that. It's therapy. It's 12 steps. Way more than putting something under your tongue every morning.
You're basically just putting a Band-Aid on a surgical site. And so with that there, the decision was made that day when you did tell him. So did you go to, was it inpatient rehab?
So not that time. That just was straight to the doctor. I withdrawed at home for 24 hours, started taking the meds.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
That time, yeah. But then, at 26, I went to my first rehab to South Florida, like Miami, Pompano Beach. So,
was that a decision that you made on your own? Was this court ordered, or?
No, so I mean, they were all kind of like snowballs. Like I'd have everything under the wraps, function kind of, keep my job, and like keep my parents away, my brother, and then shit would hit the fan. I'd be back. So this was I was in a city in Waterbury around here, not a great city, and I was down the block, basically like a bunch of trap houses, and again in a suit, getting like literally around like dudes and gangs and stuff, and like I mean they knew me, so they didn't mess with me, but really just a white dude in a suit in the middle of the hood. And I don't know what happened, but there was a shooting down the road. We heard it, a bunch of cars flying. We ran in the house, and at this point I kind of wanted to get sober, a little afraid to, but I was tired of the lies, the shame, the guilt. I was just unsuccessful, being broke, everything. And so I got in my car, I ran home. I was real kind of shaken up from it, felt like death creeping in. And that was the one day my mom decided to like drill me, and she was like, I know you're messing up again, you got to tell us. And I just broke down crying, and I was like, yeah, I don't like this life, it sucks, like I'm gonna die soon one way or another, like get shot or overdose. I need to get out of here. So thankfully, because of that job I was faking, I had insurance. So she made some calls, found a place in Florida, and I went to a 7-day detox in Miami, 30-day inpatient in Pompano Beach. And then same thing though. I got jacked and tan and sober, and then didn't do anything else. Came home, got a paycheck, got drunk, got blow, and came off in the morning on heroin. I was right back to it at 26.
But it sounds like at that moment with your mom, because before you were saying you were going through the motions, that you even knew it was like, I'm just going to say what they want to hear. I'll do what they want me to do. But like you said, you weren't really emotionally into it. But this time with your mom, when she was kind of drilling you a little bit, it sounds like it was starting to hit.
Yeah, it was clicking. I was tired. I was like, this can't be life, man. Like I was never suicidal, but I was like, whatever. Like it's got to end. I got to die or get sober soon. Like this isn't fun anymore. I was 6 years in, every day dope sick, chasing money, chasing drugs. Like I was raised with right morals, so I knew like every drug deal I did that someone might die. So I had that guilt over my head. Like it was just literally in every aspect of life. The girls I didn't want, the friends I didn't want, like just a life I did not want.
Yeah, it is really something when you get to that point in your life where you're just not sure. You hear people talk about rock bottom, and everyone's rock bottom is different. And then, some people who don't know about addiction and the whole recovery, they're like, well, once you hit rock bottom, that's it. Everything's, you finally it's over. No, because that's just one rock bottom. They think that rock bottom, that's it. That's not how it goes. And, with yours here, obviously, job, it was affected and all that. What about any type of legal issues? Any jail time, prison time?
Yeah, so it's funny that you said it, like how the rock bottom gets worse if you keep going. I got arrested at 17 for fighting with my dad for a domestic thing. I got arrested, I think, at 23 for assault in a fight that got lowered. Just, stupid stuff. But I was kind of proud in a sick way that, I've been selling and hustling for 6 years. I've never been caught with paraphernalia, with possession, nothing. I went through a couple jails with, a bunch of pills in my boxer briefs. Just going in, bailing out. They never checked, never felt
processed.
it. Yeah, so I thought I was just Mr. Smooth, and it was kind of something I was proud of. I would say all the time, never been arrested to my dad, so you can't really say anything to me. And, so I came back after that rehab, was back on. Now it got worse, heroin, crack, and all those yets just rolled. I got arrested 6 times in probably 2.5 years. Which isn't insane, but someone that was pretty smart at hiding things, that's a big failure. I got DUI, parked him in front of my parents' house. I got possession 3 times. I was driving with no license, no registration. One time there was a weapon in the car, open container. Just everything unfolded,
That's when you think, like you said, that bulletproof.
Yeah.
Hey, can't catch me. I've done it all this other time. And then, for me, I always use other people as my barometer. I raise the bar because people would, mainly my mom and family, about my problems, my drinking, my change, and my attitude and all that, and I would flip it. Well, what about so and so in the family or a family friend? I'm not as drunk as they are. I'm still drunk, or. They get pulled over. They were in an accident. They did this. They're missing work. They're doing all that. I'm not doing that until I was doing that. So I kept, I always had an excuse, and it was never my fault. And you just keep making excuses until it's time not to. And so here, jail. What was the longest stint you've had to do?
Never had to do actual time.
Oh, it was in and out.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of smart. Where I never put myself, even the possessions, I'd have a couple pills. I knew how much from watching, all my friends getting in a lot of trouble, I knew I couldn't get caught with certain things,
A certain amount.
Yeah, a certain kind of fight or a certain place with drugs. I always, was pretty smart, maneuvering, just because I saw everyone else get in trouble. So I was well, don't go near your school, don't do this, never carry this much on me, have someone else carry it. I was kind of protecting myself.
Smart.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people in that position don't think that way.
No.
Number one is if you're using you don't care what you do to get that high. And number two, if you're doing it for money, you don't care what you're doing as long as you get the cash.
Yeah.
So,
and I was smart. I knew, I watched all, the dudes in the cities and stuff. I knew don't tint my car. I wasn't trying to be cool. I looked like a normal just dude driving around with an untinted car, crappy car, not a nice one. Just no cops didn't want to bother me, until they knew who I was. They were just oh, it's just a Honda Civic, untinted, shitty old car. So it's not there's a bunch of pills in there. But things did catch up. And the last time I got arrested on warrants in Connecticut and New York. I did have some perks and some coke on me. I thought it was smart. This is where my head was back then. So I got pulled over driving this girl's car, and I knew I was going to get arrested that night. It was in my heart. I felt sobriety coming. Everything was building up again. That snowball was big. And I got pulled over. I was drunk, which they didn't even care about because I had so much stuff going on. I had the blood.
They're he's bombed.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Literally, I was I'm going to get my second DUI in a month. And they didn't even ask if I'd been drinking. They knew. They're you're fucked. They saw my warrants. They knew who I was. I had more stuff on me. And I took the coke and poured it on the floor as they were coming up. And she had a black Acura. So black car mats, thinking I could move it away with my foot. And when they came, they got me out. They found the coke I had left and a couple perks in my cigarette pack. And they looked at me. He's bro, what is that where your feet were? And it was winter, but it wasn't snowing. And I was I don't know, sand. And they're let's take that from you. We're gonna test it. And but I got lucky. I was facing 4 years. I found out that time. Still thought I was so smart. And when I went to the judge, he snapped and he was you think this is a joke? 2 of them, the warrants were bench warrants for other things. He's you don't even show up to court and you just keep getting arrested. He's you need to go to jail. And he asked me, like, did I have anything to say? And it was the first time I was honest in my life. I spoke from the heart. I, like, almost cried, and I was just like, dude, I don't really care. Like, I don't want to be here, but I'm a heroin addict. I'm addicted. This life sucks. I was like, I wish I could be better, but I don't. I just see darkness. I don't see a way out.
This is your
To the judge in front of the
judge.
whole courtroom. Yeah. And he was just like, you saw it hit him, and he was like, you know what? And this is in the middle of the opiate epidemic, so, like, you know, everyone kind of got what was going on. And he was like, you know what? I'll give you one chance. Like, you get arrested again, I'll make sure you go away for 10 years. And they made me go to a detox, an inpatient 30-day rehab, everything in the world, drug classes, DUI classes, breathalyzer in my car, pay fines. I went through the ringer, get my license back. I had to prove I had registration. Every little step, they made me fix my life. I had to go keep checking in for drug tests to show I was sober, and I had to show I was going to AA meetings. And from that day, I never went back to opiates.
Man. You know, now when that happened in the courtroom, obviously you don't know what to expect, so it's not like you had this speech all ready to go. So when that happened, man, did you know deep down it's like, man, okay, this is that time? Because it sounds like once you started talking, man, even when you just said just now, you could see that, like, kind of that intensity where, you know, this is it. You know, that was something that you're rock bottom.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Anywhere you looked, any angle of my life, it was just failure. You know, it was just all closing in on me, and I didn't want to be there. That's what I think people struggle with addicts and the stigma is no one's having fun. When you're in real, you're not having fun's the beginning. It was fun.
Yes.
Yeah, but I was living in hell on earth, and I was like, this literally sucks. No one's proud of me. I'm not proud of myself. Everything's a struggle. My health was failing because I snorted the heroin, so my lungs would, like, wheeze and fail the second I started snorting it in the day for the rest of the day till I went to bed. So I knew it. I was like, if I gotta go to jail, I gotta go to jail, but let me just be honest with this guy. And it changed my life. Sure.
The best thing you ever did that time. You know, when you said that about I don't want to be this way, it reminds me, we were talking about people that we lost. I lost, it was another family friend. He's like my older brother. We moved across the street from him, and he had kids. I saw him be born and grow up, and unfortunately the middle child, Kevin, got involved with drugs and ended up passing away. He OD'd. And I remember Rick telling me that he was at home with his dad, and he was very sick, and was begging his dad to take him down to the hood to get drugs. And Rick was like, you're asking me to do this? That's how much control it had over him. And Kevin just started bawling his eyes out. He goes, Dad, I don't want to be this way. I don't like who I am, but I can't control it. And Rick said, that's the first time that I almost understood, you can't completely, about addiction, because I'm looking at my son hurting so bad, saying those words. He goes, it killed me knowing how much he's hurting us, but it's the first time he got a clue of how much his son was hurting. So for you to say that, I mean, that really is something.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell a story I've never told, I don't think, on my social medias or anything, but there's one time my mom bought me drugs, and it was on Mother's Day. I was dope sick. I think I spent the money on gifts for her, the money I had, and then realized, oh, shit, I'm dope sick. And halfway through the day, couldn't take it anymore, and started to be like, Mom, I need to borrow, $40, $50, whatever. And she was like, nope. Like, my parents did not. They'll help you fix your life, but when it comes to, like, they know they're paying for drugs, like, we're not doing that. And so they literally funded, like, none of my habit. That's why I always had a job and hustled. But I just got in a fight with her on Mother's Day. And if you look at me now, like, I try to do anything I can. I'm trying to build an empire to make my parents proud, to retire them. Like, my parents, I have a huge heart, but addiction took that away during it. And I was screaming at her on Mother's Day to give me money. And I finally forced her to like, she was basically crying because we were fighting so long. She was just like, leave me alone. And she was finally like, just take this money. And like, her face like that will always keep me sober. It was just disgust, stress, worry. She didn't want to be doing that on Mother's Day. And still to date, like, she still says, like, addiction was addiction, but that one day really, really hurt her. And I remember just feeling like a piece of shit when I left. But when I got back, I got in a fight with my dad, and he never understood. Wasn't an addict himself. He likes his 2 glasses of whiskey, and he goes to bed here and there. I've seen him drunk once or twice in 30 years. So we always really struggled, like, dude, just get it together, Because if you don't know something, how are you going to know? And now he's very supportive and understanding. but I always just lied about it. So he was like, "What is this kid doing?" And I told him, I was like, "We got in a fight," and I looked him in the eyes, and I was like, "Does it look like I'm having fun, man?" I was like, "This is not fun for me, and this is the last place I'd ever wish for anyone to be." And you just saw in his eyes, he's kind of like, "Wow," like he got it.
That aha moment.
Like I wasn't having fun. I wasn't I didn't want $40 to go get strippers and party. Like, it sucks. I'm physically
just
ill.
to make it through the day.
Yeah, and you could see just like the empathy in his eyes, and from there on, he just started to be like, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" Instead of like, "Why the hell are you doing this?"
Instead of like just grinding you into it, after feeling terrible. Talking about moms, I had that aha moment. I'm sure, like with moms that I sit down, we need to talk. Oh, again. All right, so she's sitting there and she's going through the whole spiel. I'm literally across the table, just sitting there, just going, Cocky, didn't give a shit. Seeing how visibly upset she was, all of a sudden she starts crying, and she's like, "You are breaking my heart." And I was still like, "Can you speed it up? I want to get to I need a drink." Didn't care. Fast forward, I get sober. And a year, 2 years, 3 years go by. We're sitting at the same same table, having a great conversation. And I'm looking at her. It was like someone put a slideshow in front of me. All of a sudden, that moment popped into my head of seeing my ma pounding on her chest, crying. And I looked at her, and I'm just staring, and she's going like this. She's like, "What?" And I just lost and started crying my eyes out. I'm like, "Remember?" And she goes, "Oh, it's okay. No, it's not okay." But I'll never forget that moment, kind of like you. And those moments, like, just let it go. That's the past. I don't ever want to forget that, because that kind of keeps us rolling.
Yeah, because when your mind tells you they're good times, once you get sober and you kind of feel healed, sometimes your mind could be like, I want to go get drunk, get a girl, have some fun. And it's like, I got to remember, like, handcuffs, my parents crying, my brother hiding from me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, things I'm just not proud of, and that keeps me sober,
Yeah,
sucks.
I mean, people that don't understand, family, friends, are the ones that love us the most and come at us the hardest, and especially when they don't understand. They mean well, but they're causing so much more damage. And never use them as an excuse why we do more, but it actually is, because it's like, you don't understand what's going on. So what do? You do another line, you drink another drink, you do some more here, whatever it is. But the pain that we inflict on our family. And yeah, I know you were saying how it affected your mom and your family. Is there, like, anyone else in your family that anything happened where it affected them as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone, like, even some of them don't notice. My cousins and stuff, like, going through 12 steps, it really showed me how I affected everyone in my life. Like, my cousins needed a better older cousin. My friends pulled away. There's girls I put through a lot, but my brother took a lot of the heat, because before I got an addiction, it was really anger. Like 17, right before I was using, I would put my head through a wall. Like, I was just mentally frustrated as a kid. Like, I think it was the PTSD and the stuff I went through, and the ADD and all this stuff. But he would have to hide in his room. Me and my dad would, like, fist fight or, like, scream at each other for hours. Like, my dad didn't know how to control. He's just like, "What's wrong with this kid?"
Your younger brother?
Yeah, my younger brother. He was 4 years younger, Tyler.
Okay.
And then, sadly, he looked up to me a lot. And, the coming years, he'd watch me. He always used to tell a story. He would laugh, but I don't think he thought it was funny, because he always liked, like, my sports and how I was going to be, like, a pro ball player. And he came home and he tells a story. My parents are away. He came home from school or something, and our entire back room was just pounds of weed. Like, I have no idea how much, like, the whole living room. And he was just like, "Dude, what are you doing?" Like, and he was probably 14, I'm 18. And I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Let's make some money." And he was like, "Dude, this is mom and dad's house." Because he wasn't an addict, like, saw things clearly. Like, "Dude, are you an idiot? Like, you're going to get mom's house seized, like, and dad's house." And I was just like, this is what I do. I'm just making money quick. And he watched me snort lines. And subsequently, in 2021, I made amends to him. He was on my softball team. We go to Yankee games. We had great times. I'm grateful for that. I owe that to God and sobriety. But he ended up dealing with drinking and some other stuff, and he ended up taking his life while fighting with a girl, like his girlfriend, at 4 a.m. in 2021.
Yeah, I'm
So,
sorry, John.
Yeah, I appreciate it. A lot of people tell me that, don't hold that on yourself, but I think part of it, like, he had other stuff going on, like, and, always was a big drinker and stuff like that, but you got to be real that, like, I played a part in that, you know what I mean? Like, so, got to live with that.
Our actions do have different results on different people. And like you said, here it is your brother, younger brother, looking up to the older brother and stuff like that. And obviously loves you. And so that had to be very hard on him as well as all of your family. And but you said that he was personally dealing with issues with alcohol?
Yeah, I mean, they say addiction runs in that family. So like, I have my grandparents and like like ancestors have a lot, but my parents aren't. And then me and my brother both had real addict. Like he during a day would just he didn't drink. Like he would even say to my dad, like my dad would be like, "Why you drink like this?" To both of us, and we'd both be like, "Bro," he's like, "Have one and go to bed." And one day we both looked at my dad and we were like, "If you had one beer, I wouldn't want it. Like it's not what I'm looking. I'm looking for 30." And he was like, "What?" And that's where he didn't get it. Me and my brother just had that addiction gene of like more, more, more. So. He liked, nicotine, alcohol. When he drank, he would drink a bottle till he passed out.
This is your brother.
Yeah, but he always like, I learned through you. That's the one thing he did take. He's like, you fail. So he's like, I see who your failures. I learned how to like hide his drinking. Like I was unsuccessful. He had a good job. He had a $60,000 Challenger. He had a nice high-rise apartment in Stanford. He didn't act up when he drank. He drank, had fun, and went to bed. So he learned from me kind of how to like
like
shelter
you
it.
learned from
Exactly
what you did. So it's just like this.
Yeah, so he was good at hiding it, and there were days he wouldn't drink. He was never like a full blown, but you could tell other stuff was like in the last 2 years he got out of all of his hobbies. He really just like smoked weed at night and drank and played video games. And then he said there was a time where him and his friends took because he never would mess with like opiates or stuff like that because of me, but they took I guess a bunch of Molly up in Cape Cod, and he didn't I think know the severity of it, and he did it for like 2 straight days. And he told me weeks before he took his life that he was struggling mentally, and he thinks like he kind of rewired his brain or messed with his brain. So yeah, he was dealing with that, and then literally 2 weeks later he took his own life. So
Man.
but I mean, it travels deep, and I carry that. I went on to write my book for him, and everything I do now is to try to he was really proud. I was already helping people when he was still alive. So a lot of times he told me how proud he was, and that's what motivates me today to keep doing that for him.
Yeah, that's got to, I look back and I talk to people, and, because of our actions, there's, some of these bridges can't be built back again. They can't be mended because of our decisions. And I got to, accept that. And I've had friends and people I've met through doing this that almost get a little shitty with family and friends who won't forgive them. They're like, well, I'm sober now, and I can't believe they're not giving me a chance. I'm like, a chance? Do you know how many chances after year? Not a day, a week, 10, 20, 30 years of this total chaos. And, sometimes, the hurt and the pain, I've had friends, hey, listen, I'm very proud of you. But we cannot have this relationship, man. Some of the things that were said and done are too deep. For me, family and friends, I've been very blessed. There's one person who I consider like my brother. In fact, he's the brother of the one Kevin I told you about that lost his life. That's his brother, so it would have been his nephew. And we were close for over 30 plus years. I mean, inseparable, like brothers. And we haven't talked in 5 years. And you know what? It hurt me a little bit too, where it was like, and he drinks and all that too. And I'm like, well, look at you. Well, it's not, I can't flip the script anymore. So, it's something that we go through. But, man, I mean, the lessons learned. And now, you switch that around from doing all these things to what you're doing now as far as your different, your social media and everything you're doing.
Yeah, so now I do Recovery John on TikTok and Instagram. And Facebook. So I post, it started with just my story, like before and after pictures of me like cracked out at 140 pounds and like me flexing at 180. Like it grabbed people's attention to see like obviously he's getting better, and then they'd read my story. Then I got into TikTok and educational stuff on recovery, substance abuse addiction, mental health. I wrote a book, Life on Life's Terms. That's on Amazon. I dedicated that to my brother. Actually, December of last year, so it's about to be a year next week. It went number 1 on Amazon new releases.
That's great.
Yeah, and I'm no like, I mean, I get millions of views now, but even then, I wasn't a celebrity or a lot of views, and that's just God, Like I put it out there, and I guess through TikTok and personal life, and it just started selling. So I dedicated that to my brother and my friends that I lost, and I help people find treatment. I help people give them any advice. I do personal recovery coaching for private clients, and my life is now just revolved around helping people. And by the grace of God, I found ways to make money so I could do that literally around the clock and just help people as much as I can.
That is such a cool feeling. I know we were talking before the show about doing that, and we had such self-destruction and that give a shit attitude. Last thing, like I said back then, was thinking about helping anyone else. I didn't want to help myself. Why the hell would I want to help you? And now it's just the opposite. We talk sometimes about people who finally get sober, and no one would blame you if, hey, you're sober, you take care of you, and that's it. You go off and live your life. But so many people that I've met through this, they want to give. It's like, I want to share their stories and share this to give other people hope. And who better to do it? Because, I don't know about as far as your education is doing this. I've never taken any classes for like a coach or counselor, peer coach, nothing. And when I started my Fighter of War, I made it very clear. I said, listen, as far as education-wise, no degrees on the wall. I'm one of you, and that's what I am. And social media, what we're going to do is give options and opinions, and we'll listen. No judgment and all that stuff. And sometimes you don't have to say a word. Sometimes you sit and listen. And, that's what we do.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like I have no degree. I have an electrical certificate that I did in sobriety that I don't do anymore because now I do this. But I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, I don't know what I got to say. I'm like, you have all the education. Like, I remember it started for me when I wanted to help people. I was in rehab and saw this just normal dude. He was an AA speaker, I think. He came to speak to the rehab. And, you're there, you're hopeless. Where is my life going to go from here? I still have court cases. I have no license, no degree. I'm 28 in rehab. And he just told his story, and not all he had, but, it wasn't this crazy thing or anything I do now, helping people. He just told the story how he had a wife, a kid, he got a plumbing degree, and he got his first house, and I was sold. That guy didn't realize what he was saying gave me hope that, all right, there is some hope here. I get sober, things will figure itself out, even though I'm starting at 28. Because he was, about my age, a couple years ahead of me. And I said, wow. And now I also started the Addict's Truth podcast and TikTok and Instagram. And I share people's stories also, not even just a podcast, but people send me their before and after pictures, and I post it on the Instagram, TikTok, and they go viral. And it's just people seeing that hope that are sitting there smoking a crack pipe or shooting up, and they're like, wow, that dude went from people in hospital beds dying to better. And it's if they could do it, I could do it, and that's it.
That is so true, man. And there's no better person to talk with. And I talk about people who actually do go to college to get degrees as a peer coach, as a counselor, alcohol addiction recovery. And I've met some people who that don't drink and do anything, don't even have it in their family, but have this overwhelming desire to help people. And I'm like, God bless you, man. You freaking nuts. I mean, to do so God bless you. But, for us, what we've gone through physically, emotionally, spiritually, we can relate. We'll never know exactly what people feel, but we got a pretty damn good idea what they're going through. And, and I had people come on the show that were scheduled, and they'll hear a story from a previous show, and they're like, holy shit, that's insane. And then like, you know what? My story's not that flashy or that violent or that intense. I don't know if I should come on because no one's going to care what I have to say. I'm like, no, you nailed it too. Someone's going to hear something, whether it's work, physical fitness, just sharing stories, and it's going to click with somebody.
Yeah, I just brought a sponsee into a rehab to speak, and he was like, he never went to rehab. He was just a dad, painter, drinker, and he was like, and it was a rough rehab. These people come from the streets shooting up drugs. And he's like, I don't know. They're not going to get much from me. And I was like, dude, you just wait, man. I was like, just tell your story, shut up, and listen to what they say after. And he told the story, and the first girl, boop, her hand went up. And she was like, I got to say, I can relate so much. The first words out of her mouth were exactly everything I told her. I was like, she was like, I needed to hear that tonight, and da-da-da-da. And she went on for 20 minutes or 50 minutes. And I looked at him, and I was, choked up and teary-eyed. And you could see he was like, and I was like, bro, it's not about, it's cool to hear the different stories, but, some people have been arrested way more than me. Never been arrested. It's but when you say you're an addict, instantly there's that connection of I know what you're talking about. We've been there together.
Yes, there's that connection, and the thing is too is I'll have people say, well, what do I say? It's like, there's no script. You, like you said, you are telling your story. That's all you're doing. And sometimes they think, well, wait a minute, that seems too easy. Well, it is. You're not making something. See, when we were addicts and all that stuff with active addiction, you got to remember which lie you told. You got to remember this and that. It's so hard to have a conversation. When we're telling our story, we're just recanting our life. And when I did my first public speaking event, I was like, no one's going to want to hear this. I mean, it's different doing this for some reason, but being in front of people, and it's the first time as I'm scanning the room, seeing people just go, that you're making this difference, and it was so rewarding, man. Just so rewarding. Just like everything that you're doing.
I appreciate it. No, I gave a speech, my first speech, and I do like keynote speeches now sometimes. I did one in front of it was a fundraiser, but it was like every CEO around here. There was members of Congress and state senate. It was a youth fundraiser for a nonprofit I'm on the board for, and that was the first time I was nervous because I was like, these aren't addicts from what I know. I'm sure there's some addicts in here. I've been around long enough to know, but I'm like, it's different when it's a bunch of addicts. Like they're all gonna relate and know my story. But I'm telling members of Congress how you sell drugs. Like it's gonna be interesting, and silence after, just tears, people coming up to me. My son's an addict. Can I talk to you after?
Yes.
I've been sober 30 years. Just all this, and it just even at that was 4.5 years sobriety. I was like, I'm still learning that. You know what I mean? We're all connected, and people got to hear our stories.
It is so wild too, because I never thought that I would be saying something that people were like like, oh my God, captivated by it, and they're like, oh, wow. And then when I did the first speaking engagement, I was like, okay, that it went. I was happy the way it went, and afterwards I was like, "We're done." At the end of the program, we get the hell out of Dodge here, and they finished wrapping up the show. As I was walking off, talking to a couple of people, and I turned around to leave, and there were just people everywhere that were walking up, like almost in line, that wanted to talk, shake my hand, hug, and I was just like, it was the most intense, beautiful feeling. That instead of being that guy in the past where it'd be like, Manny, remember Gunner? And yeah, that piece of shit. You get all these negative, content, and because that's who I was back then. Now getting this positive, it's such a great feeling, man.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. I tell people don't be scared of sobriety. I mean, you're scared at first, but then it's like. When I had like that, like even just like members of Congress have saying something to me, I was like, I could remember in my head just sitting in a car, like smoking a crack pipe, waiting for my dealer, just pathetic scenarios. And it's like, look how far you can come. Like it was for me to realize, like, wow, we could do anything.
And then I don't know if it happened to you. We've all had that talk from people where, if I can do it, you can do it, or if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's like, yeah. You know who says that? People who are up here, people who have the world by the ass now. They didn't always have the world by the ass. They had to go through all these hardships that we went through to get to that point. And I finally got to understand that after the process of doing what we have gone through. And now when I say that to people, it's not one of those, we're better than you, but we're here to, like you said, we can do it. You can do this. And just sharing and knowing our past helps them, because they're like, wait, sometimes like, I didn't screw up as bad as that guy. I thought I was bad until I met John and his story, man. But stuff like that. But
there's times I remember being at a book signing in Yonkers and literally signing autographs. And at the time, I'm thinking like, how far I come. Like this is weird. Like trying to get used to it. And this girl was like, you're just so amazing. I wish I could write a book. And I looked at her and I was like, you ever hear like I'm just successful because I'm crazy enough to try it? Like I literally bartended and had no idea. I guess now I'm an author, but I'm not college. I'm not educated. I wasn't anything, and I bartended in Yonkers until 4 a.m. every night, and went home and wrote on a laptop a book. And I just found out how to publish it. I was like, you could do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm like, I'm not being condescending. I was like, anyone can do that. 14-year-old could do this. I was like, I just decided to do it. So, it's I like inspiring people because like my mind was never that open. If you told me I was gonna write a book, I'd have been like, yeah. Right.
I know, man. It's just looking at stuff, or even like the notoriety. I remember when I started my Fighter War, and people were chiming in with just saying, thank you for starting this family. Thank you for giving us a safe place to talk. Thank you. And it's like, yeah, that's nice. And then as the weeks turn into months, to 3 months, 6 months going by, and it's growing and growing. And now the comments were shifting because you're just so involved in it. And they're like, Maddie, thank you so much for doing this. You're awesome. You're this, you're that. I was like, whoa. It was very uncomfortable hearing all these accolades towards me. It was like, I'm just Maddie. This is you guys. I was real lucky. Brad McLeod from Sober School and Dan O'Donnell from Hard Knocks had me on their show, and they said, "Dude, you're a natural, man. You're one of us talking from the heart. It's authentic. You're not bullshitting, and that's what people need to hear." And and that's what it's shaped us into right now. And it's just helping. And what's like for your speaking events and all that? What's the biggest crowd that you've had the pleasure of speaking in front of?
Probably that one. That was 200 people, maybe. It was a lot of people. It was a big, like all the CEOs of all the banks, painting businesses, the mall, everything. And then they had like the Congress, Senate, and their employees. It was
insane.
I thought it was like this little. They didn't tell me. And then they're like, "Oh, you're just gonna be a speaker." And then I walked in. There was a huge thing that said keynote speaker, author Jonathan Medaka, life and life. And I was like, and I saw this massive like ballroom full of people, and I was like, oh, I got played. I was like,
my God.
I'm excited, but I didn't mentally prepare for this, and it went great. It was cool, but
yeah, because I've had people say it doesn't matter if there's, 5 people or 50 people. It doesn't matter if there's 50 people or 500 people.
yeah.
It's the same. And I remember when I went out there, I can't remember how many my first one was, but I remember that first time when they hand you the mic, and it's just like, and I go, first of all, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to have the time to speak. And second of all, I'm very sorry. You guys are my first victims. This is my first public speaking engagement. And it went off really well. They were very kind in their response. But yeah, it was a riot. And I tell you, man, just our experiences growing up and hearing these stories, it is just so awesome. Like I said, the biggest thing is meeting people like you. And sharing our stories, man. So definitely appreciate it, John.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the platform.
Before that, please reach out. Where can we find you on social media?
Recovery John. So it's recovery_John on Instagram, Recovery John on TikTok, or the Addict's Truth podcast or Instagram or TikTok.
Fantastic. Well, you heard here, folks, John, his story and everything from helping. He understands. We all do. We're here to help. We're one big family, and definitely appreciate it. So thank you guys for your support too, and please check us out on YouTube at My Fight Our War. Shoot on over there, subscribe, and help us out a lot. Then follow us over on TikTok as well as Instagram. So until then, guys, thank you for your support, following us, and keep fighting a good fight.